President, Mr Barroso says, "I think my team is of high quality." Well, let's conduct a human audit. Now, I'm mindful that audits aren't very popular in the European Commission, and that auditors, if they do their job properly, get fired, but nonetheless, here goes. From France, we have Mr Jacques Barrot. He'll take on transport. In 2000, he received an 8-month suspended jail sentence for his involvement in an embezzlement case and was banned from holding public office for 2 years. From Hungary, we have Mr Kovács. He'll take on taxation. For many years, a communist apparatchik, a friend of Mr Kadar, the dictator there, and an outspoken opponent of the values that we hold dear in the West. His new empire will produce taxation policy, and he'll look after the customs union from Cork across to Vilnius. Are the EPP and British Conservatives really going to vote for that? From Estonia, we have Mr Kallas. For 20 years, a Soviet party apparatchik, until his newly acquired taste for capitalism got him into some trouble. Though, to be fair, he was acquitted of abuse and fraud, but convicted for providing false information, and he's going to be in charge of the anti-fraud drive. I mean, you couldn't make it up. From the UK, we've got Peter Mandelson. He'll take on the trade portfolio. He, of course, twice was removed from the British government, yet, to be fair, he's one of the more competent ones. From the Netherlands, we've got Nelly Kroes. She'll take on competition. She's accused of lying to the European Parliament. Now, these may only be allegations, but they're made by Mr Van Buitenen, and I think should be listened to. Ask yourself a question. Would you buy a used car from this Commission? I mean, the answer simply must be no. But even if they were competent, even if this was a high-quality Commission, and sorry, Mr Barroso, but I don't think it is, even if it was a high-quality Commission, we would still vote no on the political principle that it's the Commission that is the guardian of the treaties, that it's the Commission that is the motor for integration, that it's the Commission that initiates the legislation that is damaging our businesses across Europe so badly. It is the Commission that is the embodiment of all that is worst in this European Union. It is the Commission that is the government of Europe and is not directly accountable to anybody. And please, when you vote, take note that 20 of these commissioners have already said that they intend to attempt to implement the Constitution even before it's been ratified by Member States' governments. In the face of such breathtaking arrogance, nobody in the Independence and Democracy Group will vote for this Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Nigel Farage, President of the Europe of Freedom and Democracy.
When we had a president, we'd see a giant global political figure. The man that would be the political leader for 500 million people, the man that would represent all of us on the world stage, the man whose job was so important that, of course, you're paid more than President Obama. Well, I'm afraid what we got was you. And I'm sorry, but after that performance earlier that you gave, and I don't want to be rude, but you know, really, you have the charisma of a damp rag and the appearance of a low-grade bank clerk. And the question that I want to ask, that we're all going to ask is, who are you? I'd never heard of you. Nobody in Europe had ever heard of you. I would like to ask you, President, who voted for you? And what mechanism? Oh, I know democracy is not popular with you lot. And what mechanism do the peoples of Europe have to remove you? Is this European democracy? Well, I sense, though, that you're competent and capable and dangerous, and I have no doubt that it's your intention to be the quiet assassin of European democracy and of the European nation states. You appear to have a loathing for the very concept of the existence of nation states. Perhaps that's because you come from Belgium, which of course is pretty much a non-country. But since you took over, we've seen Greece reduced to nothing more than a protectorate. Sir, you have no legitimacy in this job at all, and I can say with confidence that I can speak on behalf of the majority of the British people in saying we don't know you, we don't want you, and the sooner you're put out to grass, the better.
Well, as you said, Mr. President, you wouldn't like to be rude, and I prefer to go ahead with this statement. Mr. President, blue card, if you could. Yeah.
Mr. Farage, would you agree we should apply Article 9 of the treaty? You can leave Europe by...
The floor is yours.
You may not like what I say, but just consider your behaviour. You, after the Irish people in a referendum voted no, said that our group had opened, by supporting the no vote, that we'd opened the door to fascism. You said that we had behaved as a group in the Parliament like Hitler and the Nazis in the Reichstag. We've been called by Danny Cohn-Bendit mentally weak. You know, it has to be, it can't be one way.
It is not a personal statement. Mr. President Farage, it is not personal statement. I am very sorry, it was not personal statement.
I rise on Rule 170, paragraph 4, to make the point that this proposal that we are being asked to vote on gives the President of this Parliament such arbitrary and dictatorial powers that no one that believes in democracy would ever even consider it. But to be asked for us to vote on it when the political groups in this Parliament have not even had time to discuss it, surely cannot be right, and so I ask that this vote is adjourned to the next session in Strasbourg so that people actually get a chance to understand the huge implications of this vote if it's passed.
Today, the President announced an interpretation of Rule 19 which puts this House in plain violation of its own regulations. We have now departed from the rule of law and given arbitrary power to the Chair to tear up our rule book and proceed as he sees fit. This is plainly illegal under our own rules. This chamber may be sovereign, but it must nonetheless follow its own rules. This interpretation by the Constitutional Affairs Committee is going to be contested today. It may come before this House in a vote. If we vote in favour collectively, we are voting to abandon the rules under which we proceed. The grandfather of British resistance to totalitarianism, Edmund Burke. They must be worse than blind who cannot see with what undeviating regularity of system, in this case and in all cases, they pursue their scheme for the destruction of every independent power. Their will is the law, not only at home, but as to the concerns of every nation. They have swept aside the very constitutions under which legislatures acted.
La prego di concludere.
My regard for you, Mr. Chairman, and my personal affection for you that prevents me from likening it to the Ermächtigungsgesetz of 1933, which was also voted through by a parliamentary majority, and I ask this House not to vote it.
Will you come
not to vote on this measure until we have a chance to
You don't say that.
That comment is totally unacceptable. We are going to take internal group measures, and I would ask for Mr. Hannan to be excluded from our group.